Will James Harden play tonight? We'll talk about that and more next on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, I'm Keith Pompey. Thanks for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical, right? Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Well, look, y'all, today we got a lot to talk about. The 76ers will play their second preseason game tonight, which is going to be Wednesday. And they play against the Boston Celtics. So we all know they played the Boston Celtics on Sunday. The score was 114 to 106. The big question is, will James Harden play tonight? Now, the first game, James didn't play. Joel Embiid didn't play. Anthony Melton didn't play, nor did Furkan Korkmaz. Furkan was basically an injury. He has an injury. He has a leg strain. James and Joel, they're trying to ramp them up. They're trying to ramp them up to get them in game shape. And Anthony Melton, been working hard at camp. They just wanted to give him the night off, right? So we're going to talk about, is James going to play? Secondly, we got to talk about this impact that Pat Bev has been having. I mean, Pat Bev has been balling, y'all. I mean, really balling. Like the impact. I shouldn't just say balling. Let me say Pat Bev, his impact as far as being a leader on the defensive end has really stood out. Now, again, it's been one preseason game. We're going into the second one tonight. But when you factor in like the leadership qualities and all the things and how all the young guys gravitate towards him, it's something, huge. And the last one, we got to talk about this ball movement, talk about the differences that I see. And I think this is showing you why Nick Nurse is a guy that people want to play for. This is what I'm seeing. But, on Tuesday's practice, Nick Nurse was asked about James, right? He was asked if James Harden was going to play, right? And was there, what was there was there a decision made on it? And Nick Nurse basically came back and said, they're taking a day-by-day approach with James. And, the question was basically like, if there's any update on his availability. Nurse responded, no, not yet. Again, we are just trying to go day by day with this. Now, that doesn't sound good to me because they basically typically when you hear something like that, that's telling me that even if he knew if he was going to play or not, he wasn't going to say it. And it's one of those things where when you're a new coach, and I get you practicing with the players, and you got the players practicing during training camp, and you're doing this, but you want to see, especially if you expect the guy to be here, you want to see how he looks with his teammates in your new system, right? It's not the ball dominant offense that James is used to playing, and they want a lot of different guys to get touches. They want them to do this and do that. So that's here to tell me that James, now, yes, he does have to ramp up, but you basically ramp up by playing minutes. PJ Tucker played 12 minutes the first game. James could play 12 minutes, right? So when I hear stuff like that and the situation that James is going through, to me, it's kind of like, well, does he want to play? As much as they say he does. But does he want to play? You ask yourself that question. And then the intent is to trade him, right? The intent is to trade him. That's what he wants. So is he being held out because of that? So when you come back with, now again, I'm assuming, I don't know for certain, but at the same time, when a guy is going through this situation and he doesn't play, that begs that question. Like seriously, it begs the question: is now is this something that y'all doing because you want to get him in shape, or is it something that he just doesn't want to play, and it just he's on a holding pattern until he's traded, or until you think he's going to be traded. So there's a lot to dissect with that one right there, with the whole James Harden situation, because we all know that the the Clippers are trying to put a package together to acquire him. We all know that um, he doesn't want to be here, right? We all know that the Sixers want a better package than what the Clippers are offering right now. But we also know that this is something that the Sixers may be better off getting done rather sooner than later. Because, yes, from what everyone's saying, James has been a model teammate. I mean, this is nothing like when Ben Simmons didn't want to play there. Now, James is coming to practice. He's doing whatever. He's staying around he didn't stay around. He wasn't there yesterday after practice. But there's been several times he's been there after practice working out with Tyrese Maxey. Doing all the things, laughing and joking with the assistant coaches, having a great time. But is he doing that because he feels like he's a short timer and he has no beef with them? So if I feel like I'm a short timer, I might as well make the most of it. But what happens if he isn't traded by this week? Does he continue to do that? Does he continue to be nice and all that? Or does he have to say, okay, well, this tactic didn't work? Because let's face it, he's probably here so he doesn't get fined. but at the same time, maybe you say this tactic isn't working, and I gotta up the ante to get out of here. So that's something to really pay attention to, y'all. I mean, seriously, it's something to really pay attention to, and to see what's going on. But when we get right back, I got to talk to y'all about Jace Medical when we get right back after this little break. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get a Jace case is to fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of our board-certified physicians. Just ongoing care from our physicians on any treatment-related questions. Doctor created, doctor recommended. Don't be caught unprepared. That's the key message. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. Jace handles everything from online evaluations to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care, right? So that's what you gotta do, right? So what do you do? Get $20 off on these life-saving antibiotics today from Jace Medical by using the code Locked On at checkout at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. I'm telling you guys, I'm going to repeat this again. Get $20 off on these life-saving antibiotics today from Jace Medical by using the code Locked On at checkout on jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Now, I want to talk to y'all about Pat Bev. I do. Pat Bev. The thing about Pat Bev is the guy that, typically before Pat Bev, came, you known him as a great defender, all NBA level defender, a guy who gets into people's heads, gets them frustrated, takes them out of the game. But he also can be the guy that the opposing team fans hate. Like, man, Pat Bev's a pain in the butt. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. I don't like Pat Bev. But if you are a fan of the team that Pat Bev is in, you love him. I mean, Pat Bev can do no wrong, right? Now, the thing is, you got certain guys who are leaders, right? And you got certain guys who are good for young guys. And, Pat Bev is on a team with Tobias, Joel, PJ, Danny Green if he makes the team. They have leaders. They have leaders on this team. Didn't include James because who knows if James is going to be here, right? So Pat Bev doesn't have to lead in that way for veterans, right? Because they already have them. But the one thing I will say is what really stood out to me this last game was before the game, you saw how the young guys gravitated towards Pat Bev. Talking about the two-way players, the young guys, Jaden Springer, everyone. It was like they all gravitated towards him. Like he went to chapel, guess what? They followed him to chapel. He says something, guess what? They listen. And to me, it's like one of those things where it kind of like PJ Tucker, where you don't have to be the star to be the leader. And I think that is really important to have Pat Bev on a team when you got guys like this, is because let's face it, he wasn't a lottery pick. He wasn't a top guy. He was a grinder, man. He was a dude who came up through the G League. He was a dude who made a living. Now again, is he one of the most lucrative contracts in NBA? No. But what he does is he works hard. And when you have a bunch of young guys, some of them who two-way contracts, weren't drafted, going to the G League, doing stuff like that, you need a guy like Pat Bev. Why? Because he's laid the groundwork that they need to follow. He's found a niche for himself. I mean, people forget when Pat Bev was in high school, he was a bona fide scorer. The man. And we ain't talking about in Podunk City. He did it in Chicago. Went to Marshall High School. Good school, good basketball school. So with that being said, you look at it and they say, in order for you to make it in the NBA, you have to find a niche. What are you there for? Everybody, there's a lot of people that can score. If you're playing on a team with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, how are you going to make an impact? Seriously, how are you going to make an impact in the game? It ain't going to be scoring. So you have to reinvent yourself. You have to do the little things. And that's what he's done throughout his career. Defense, leadership. And another thing is that IQ is there. So I'm saying this to say that I feel like he's a great addition for the 76ers. He's a great addition for the Sixers. We'll talk about more when I get right back from this break. Snap into the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Yo, that sounds sweet to me, right? But I'm not a gambler, but I'm telling y'all, do that. Sounds sweet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NBA season. But make sure you kick off the NFL season too. but I want you guys to kick off the NBA season too when we come. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Visit FanDuel.com and include money lines, props, etc. and around your team, right? So do all that. And I'm telling you, when the NBA season comes, y'all gotta make sure y'all do the same. Seriously, do the same. But the ball movement that the 76ers have displayed has been really good. Really good. I mean, you got guys like Tobias, PJ, D House. I mean, all these guys who last year I felt like didn't really feel like a part of the team. Now, the thing about it is that I like about it is that Nick Nurse is doing is when you see Tobias and PJ touch the ball, they feel a part of it. Like and when you have a guy that feels a part of it, they play defense. They do everything. Like you have to, like that's the biggest thing. I remember when Jimmy Butler was here, and Jimmy Butler was, I remember the first game that he played, he scored like 30 something points. First playoff game. They lost to the Brooklyn Nets. First, not game, but first playoff game. And he had 30 something points and they lost the game. The next game, Jimmy didn't score a lot. I believe it was in the teens, right? And you ask him what happened. He says, well, look, it's more important for me to get my teammates involved. Tobias, JJ Redick. He says, because when you get guys like that involved, they feel more a part of things. And then they start getting energy is better on the players when they're involved on both ends of the floor. And he was right. And guess what? It was that way from there on out. That series, and then the next one, they ended up losing. And 7, the Knicks nerds on that Kawhi Leonard 4-bounce shot to the Toronto Raptors. But he's right. So when you see PJ Tucker touching the ball, we know PJ's not going to shoot the ball a lot. But when you see him touching the ball, it's kind of sort of like, whoa, it helps them to feel more involved, to do other things. They feel like a part of it. I mean, you know he's not going to shoot the ball a lot. But at the same time, it helps bring that other energy. Tobias Harris, touching the ball. The one thing you can say about Tobias is that he's not a gun. Not a gunner. I mean, they run some plays for him if they will. He'll do that. But for the most part, Tobias Harris is the quintessential giving up a good shot for a great shot. I mean, that's just him. So, but you got to have these guys involved. You do. Last year wasn't a lot of that. You had Tobias over here. You had PJ over there. You had a 2-man game going with Joel and James Harden. And then whenever the bailout had to come, then they would give it to Maxey. So they didn't do that. They just didn't. So that's just how it was. But look, I like what I see thus far. We got to see what the James situation is going to be like. I think that this has to be a big week. If not, I think that this thing could go on for a while. And I think it could get ugly if James isn't traded this week. I want to thank you guys for listening. I want to let you guys know you can get this podcast wherever you get podcasts at. It's free and available. You can follow me on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers, or X, but which was formerly known as Twitter, at Pompey on Sixers. I have the same thing on Instagram at Pompey on Sixers. And you can go to my Sixers Insider page on Facebook, right? You can reach me there, and you can read some of my articles on Philly.com, right? But I want to thank y'all for listening, and I want y'all to have a blessed day. Deuces.